Okay, we have to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and if you're watching this video, I'm going to assume that you're familiar enough with this movie to know that it is a sequel to the 2023 Blumhouse film Five Nights at Freddy's, which is of course an adaptation of the popular point-and-click video game series. Far too often, I find myself spending a lot of time regurgitating information about a movie that can easily be found on the internet with a quick Google search, so I'm going to try to steer away from that in the future and just dive right into my thoughts on what I'm reviewing. To kick things off, I do want to touch on how bizarre I find the reception to these films to be. The first one was pretty much universally panned by critics. General audiences found it to be mixed to negative, but the hardcore fans of the game series seemed to love it. They ate that shit up. The sequel is proving to be even more polarizing, with a current Rotten Tomatoes score of 12% critically, and then an audience score of 88%, so clearly there's a major disparity there. And I've been following the social media discourse a little bit, enough so to notice that I see a lot of fans of the series criticizing the critics and claiming that they're being way too snobby and that this movie is made for the fans. It's not made for you critics who like high bar, high concept, thought-provoking films. This is for people who enjoy the games, and the rest of you aren't allowed to say anything negative about it. I have two problems with that argument. First and foremost, if you're going to adapt something just because it's from an existing property, it should still be accessible enough for new audiences to be introduced to it and at least follow it enough and enjoy it enough on its own merit. That's why it's an adaptation. It's not like it's a sequel to an existing property that you have to experience in this other medium in order to enjoy it in this one. Second of all, I enjoy the games quite a bit. I played them back when they released, at least the original 4 and a few of the spin-offs, and I like them quite a bit. I remember doing a lot of deep dive searches on the internet to try to uncover some of the lore behind the characters that isn't explained in the game. So I would consider myself to be a bigger fan than your average audience member, and this is pretty bad. And honestly, I think this whole "it's made for the fans" claim is just a weak deflection of criticism and just goes to show that a large portion of this fan base is willing to gobble up whatever Blumhouse puts out as long as it has Easter eggs and cameos. They don't really care about anything else, and that's fine. But most of us moviegoers who pay $12 to take a trip out to the cinema to watch entertainment, we expect more than that. In Five Nights at Freddy's 2, a year has passed since the events of the first film. Mike and Vanessa have moved on from their trauma, for the most part. Abby, courtesy of her brother's lies, still believes that her friends are out there somewhere and can be fixed so that they can get together again and make more blanket forts and shit, I don't know. Her search for the animatronics leads to the reveal of the original location of Five Nights at Freddy's that has been closed down for even longer than the new franchise one, and it harbors a very dark secret. In some ways, I think this movie is better than the first one, and in other ways, it is much, much worse. Let's start with what it does better, and first and foremost, it tries harder to be an actual horror film. There's more jump scares, more death scenes, and just more sequences in which people are in peril, which I think were severely lacking in the first one. The opening sequence is actually pretty great. It has a flashback that introduces Charlotte Emily, who is a pretty pivotal character in the series lore if you're familiar with it. It's darker, more mean-spirited, and ends in a really creepy visual that gives us our first look at a new animatronic and one that always freaked me out in the original games, and that is the marionette. I think this opening sequence gave me a false sense of hope because, it is all downhill from there. How? I mean, how do they keep screwing this up? I've said it before and I'll say it again. There is so much great lore attached to the games, and the basic ingredients are all translated to the big screen faithfully, but the execution falls flat on its face once again. The problem with adapting something like Five Nights at Freddy's is that in the games, there aren't a bunch of human characters running around. Mike is just the vessel in the first game through which you experience the scares. He's the audience POV, basically. The details, history, everything else is in the subtext. It's in hidden mini-games and phone messages, but in the film adaptation, they have to create actual characters that have dialogue with one another, and it sucks. Mike is such a boring character here. At least in the first movie, he had an end goal, that being finding out what happened to his brother Garrett, and here he's just kind of there, and Josh Hutcherson looks so bored every single line that he delivers. He's like a robot. I don't know what happened to him here. Abby continues to be quite annoying, and no offense to the actress Piper Rubio, I know that she's a child, so it's kind of unfair to critique her acting too heavily, but she's not good. To my surprise, Elizabeth Lail is actually pretty good this time around. I did not like her character in the first movie. She was annoying. It pissed me off that she just withheld information to the characters, vital information, mind you. And this one, she's actually kind of more the protagonist, and I thought she was pretty good. She was one of the few actors who seemed to genuinely care and was trying to do something with her character. We have double the animatronics, double the locations. There's this Faz Fest thing that's going on. It's so stupid. But if all you want is for it to be the first movie, but bigger and with more jump scares, you do kind of get that. My second favorite sequence in the film following the opening is when we follow paranormal investigators led by McKenna Grace's character as they're exploring the original location and all hell breaks loose there. It's a short segment, but it accomplishes exactly what I want out of these movies. It's spooky, it's creepy, focuses on atmosphere, but it didn't bore me to death and the characters weren't insufferable. Everything else in here is either frustrating or just outright forgettable. If you're going into this wanting to see a lot of Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich, both of them have a very minimal screen presence to the point that I question why they were here at all besides a quick paycheck. The film sometimes doubles down on one of my biggest issues with the first film in that the animatronics are friendly towards Abby. The games are scary because these things are trying to kill you and stuff you inside of an exoskeleton. The moment you make them cute and friendly and show them too much, you remove the scare factor. I think that's a known fact. And even if you're able to set a lot of things aside, you have to turn your brain off to a certain extent to enjoy this. To give a quick example of what I'm talking about, these animatronics are so goddamn loud when they walk around. It's as if the T-Rex is exiting the fucking paddock in the first Jurassic Park. Yet somehow these things are still able to sneak up on people. Honestly, as frustrating as some of this is, the movie is totally watchable until the third act, which crams so much incomprehensible nonsense into an already bloated, confused piece of schlock that I found myself totally checking out. I'm talking Avengers-style character introductions and reveals like, this character's name is actually so-and-so, and they're related to this person in this way. The dialogue is utterly robotic. It's just as bad as it was in the first movie. ChatGPT could probably make these humans sound more, well, human. This should be such an easy premise to nail. Just give me a security guard in Five Nights at Freddy's. The animatronics are trying to kill them, and they have to outlast the night. Why are we getting all this other garbage? Why can't it be more stripped down and simple and make the most of a great series of games, in my opinion? Another common defense I often see is that it's for kids. Yeah, because a movie about a deranged maniac who murders children and stores their rotting bodies inside haunted animatronic suits is definitely for kids. That makes sense. Don't get me wrong, people. You're allowed to like what you like, but it's also okay to have standards. So in conclusion, I liked the scenes with the marionette. When it was a bunch of dumb kids trespassing on a haunted restaurant and getting massacred, I was having a pretty fun time. There are some moments of decent craft, in particular one dream sequence that has a dolly zoom among many other effects. That was good stuff. But the consistently terrible dialogue, the fact that it does nothing with the characters, and the extremely goofy third act that was just way too much for me to even enjoy in a turn your brain off type of way, all of those things just turned me off to the movie overall, and I found this to be quite the disappointment because I had high hopes for it, to be honest. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I was hoping the bigger budget and the criticisms of the first film would actually maybe cause them to stick the landing. Clearly my faith was misplaced. I'm going to give Five Nights at Freddy's 2 2 stars. That's probably actually higher than you're expecting based on the rest of the video. And who knows, this has the potential to go down to 1.5 for sure. I'll probably rewatch it at some point just because I like the games, I like seeing the characters on screen, but I'm still able to criticize the movie and separate my love for the source material from what is just not a very good movie. So those are my thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Now, if you're a major fanboy of the series and you hate me for not liking this movie, please use common sense and just don't be an asshole in the comments, but I am curious to know what people have to say, so drop your thoughts in the comments, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.